So what are fossils? The term comes from Latin word fossilis, which means obtained by digging or dug out, and they represent any preserved remains, macroscopic or microscopic, like the examples you can see on the slide, or even a trace of any once living organism, like the little feet marks, for example. There is also a term subfossil, which is usually referring to partially fossilized remains or the remains originating from historical periods. An important thing to note is that not all living organisms become fossilized, and in fact, a very small percentage of them does. Also, some organisms have a much higher chance to become fossilized than others. Just think about organisms that have bones and teeth in comparison to plants or boneless animals, for example. Therefore, plant remains are quite rare forms of fossils because plants are mainly composed of soft and easily degradable tissues. In that manner, also various parts of a same organism have different probabilities of becoming fossilized. Like that, for example, human teeth and bones are much more commonly preserved than flesh or hair, perhaps. Same is for plant remains, where juicy fruits, leaves, or flowers perish very fast, while strong husks, grains, or wood have a higher potential for fossilization. It is always important to keep these things in mind while interpreting the results, so we wouldn't give false interpretation or overrepresent certain species or parts of an organism. As already noted, plant tissues are easily degraded, and therefore plant fossils are quite rare in comparison to some other organisms. Nevertheless, there are many examples of even whole plants being recovered. So here you can see examples of some extremely perishable plant parts like whole flowers and leaves being unearthed, but also very enduring ones like wood or nuts. Now to answer these questions you can see on the slide. Theoretically, fossils can be formed before the death of an organism, like the traces of feet of an animal you saw on the previous slide. And in botany this is perhaps more common since pollen grains, like this one at the top, can be over several hundreds of years old and have undergone complete fossilization. But the tree from which they originate can still be alive, because some tree species have very long life expectancy. And this can also happen to leaves, seeds, branches, and so on. And the taxonomic identification can be done even if we recover only one plant part, like a grain of barley or a pollen grain. But this is easy for the plants that exist today because we can easily compare the plant parts we recover to the parts of the whole living plant. But paleobotanical studies of much older plant species which have become extinct have a different situation, and it is often not possible to know for sure if two fossilized plant parts belong to the same species. For example, a wooden remain or a seed might belong to the same species, but this cannot be confirmed until the researchers find them together.